This is the Mind Like Books podcast, episode 23. Coming back is Paul, the professional cat painter.
Thanks.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Good.
Also coming up, Let's Play on YouTube.
Oh!
Of the new game. Just announced now. I hope it's gonna happen. The game that just came out called Stray, about the cyberpunk world with a cat. So I really hope Paul wasn't kidding and he's gonna make a YouTube Let's Play series about that. It's only 5 hours long, so you should do it.
I get pretty drunk in 5 hours. It should be entertaining then, I think.
I'd watch that. Yeah. We have one viewer.
Also coming back is Adam, the anime aficionado.
Hello.
Knows anything and everything about anime. Thanks for coming again.
Thanks for having me.
How are you?
Good.
Thanks for joining us in the Czech Republic at 8 a.m. Hope it's not too early.
No, I've been awake for like 2 hours now.
Crazy, yes. Paul was also appalled.
The long silence is justified.
What the fuck is that?
And
Nobody
also,
wakes up at those hours.
Of course, Martin's also joining us. Martin just made it to Japan finally to do research on artificial intelligence. And I want to give you like a title. You got the anime aficionado and the professional cat painter. I'd call you like the person who's too kind for its own good. But I don't know how to say it in one word. So
Okay.
That's not mocking enough though.
That's too kind of you.
Because Martin's just got to Japan and he's just like being too considerate about everybody and everything. So learn how to be an asshole, please. You need that.
He does desperately need that.
The anti-asshole.
By the way, I do paint other things, you know.
I
Sorry.
know.
Sound like I'm some kind of weirdo painting cats.
He also paints dogs.
I paint, portraits of dogs. I don't go out in the street and paint dogs.
You don't paint on dogs.
No,
you paint
I don't
dogs.
go out and spray paint
Yeah.
dogs, no.
Yeah.
No, Paul does also landscapes and all kind of stuff. I like it a lot. He also talked about it in one of the previous episodes. So check him out at Instagram at
Paul Bowen Art.
Paul Bowen Art. Yeah, check him out. So today we'll gathered here for something that might be regular or it will never happen again. Please let us know at mindlikebooks@gmail.com how much you like this episode. This is another one of those catch-up episodes while I try to fight my way through the Way of the Kings from the Stormlight Archive series, and it's a ginormous book, and I have to take my time to finish 1,000 pages, so we're doing other things. And I've been kind of planning this for a while. I think it could be like a lot of fun, and potentially it could be super boring, so we'll see. So we've all, of course, been reading other stuff than just what we do for this podcast. So we've all chosen one book, and we're just going to do like a catch-up chat about a book each. That's it. That's pretty much the plan. And to get right into it, I'd like to ask you, when is the last time you were reading a book? The last time I was reading a book was yesterday at 7 p.m.
About 30 minutes ago.
Oh, okay.
Does audiobook count?
Yes.
2 hours ago?
Like a proper boring man or listening to audiobooks. I think it was yesterday afternoon, some day. Yeah.
So Paul wins, he should start then. He's the most avid reader of all of us.
Yeah.
I have the most time, I guess. Alright, so I read a book by the cat lover, the swinger, the uncle that tells you shit that you don't want to hear, but he's got a point. Robert A. Heinlein. Job, a comedy of justice. It's one of his last 4 years before he died. I didn't know anything about the book when I went into it. I enjoyed it. It combines sort of, not so much sci-fi, but it's sort of a multiverse worlds.
Yeah, that was my question actually. It's not fantasy, or is it?
It's not sci-fi, but it's definitely more like fantasy, I guess.
Okay.
And he's sort of more critiquing organized religion throughout the book. Do you want me to give you a brief summary?
Maybe before you do that, I want to mention that we talked about Heinlein in a lot of depth on episode 18, Starship Troopers. So we're not going to talk about the angry uncle himself, but
Paul. Paul almost made me read this book, and by what you were saying, but then I realized I hate these kinds of books, so...
Still the best book, in my opinion, on this podcast so far. So I highly recommend it. And I was very surprised about this one. One of his later books, 1984.
Yes, later book. Yeah.
And he died 1988. It was, I think, 3 books like before he died.
I think so.
440 pages and won the Locus Award for Best Fantasy Novel. Don't know what the Locus Award is, but he won it the next year after the book came out. I just wanted to say, is it a comedy? It's called a comedy, but is it a comedy?
Well, I'm not religious myself either, so I wasn't really familiar with any of the Bible references and stuff like that, or about the story of Job too much at all. So, yeah, I mean, it's not a comedy, but I mean, he's sort of like just dunking on like organized religion a lot. It does follow sort of the typical Heinlein kind of characters. But the main character is sort of like a fundamentalist Christian who believes in the literal translation of the Bible. And he's getting sort of transported to a different multiverse randomly. But he thinks it's sort of like
so it's an isekai.
The devil is doing it.
Interesting.
So he's getting these shocks because he's from a world where they're using like airships and stuff like that. So the technology is not very advanced. Typical Heinlein. There's a female character who's also very intelligent. Gets things done as well, but she's basically a walking vagina. Yeah, that's Heinlein. That's what you expect. So you're not going to get any PC stuff with him. Of course, that's probably why I like him. Of course, the devil turns out to be a kind of a nice guy who's actually, people get sent to hell. He's like, well, you've been lied to. I'm just going to try to help you psychologically get back together. Yahweh's a prick who's basically described as a child building sandcastles on the beach and then knocking them down in a tantrum. And so I mean, it's got a good like commentary of it. So that point, you could say it's sort of like a comedy.
It's like a satire of the religion system, the whole thing.
Yes. But would I recommend it? It's a hard book to recommend. I think if you're a Heinlein fan, yeah, definitely. It's classic Heinlein. It's easy to read. I went into it blind, so I quite enjoyed him sort of moving between worlds and stuff like that. The parts about the scripture and stuff like that, I have no religious background, so it's kind of a bit, not boring, but it's sort of lost me a bit, like, what was the point that I was trying to make? It's a bit long as well.
So does he come off as like super criticizing the religion, like Richard Dawkins or something?
Well, that was what I was thinking. Like, I was sort of did a bit of research. Was Heinlein actually like sort of an atheist? And apparently he was quite cagey about it, that he did have some religious beliefs, but I think he's just sort of going after sort of organized religious groups. Especially like fundamentalists and things like that. No, I wouldn't say he's definitely not like doing like Dawkins kind of thing.
Kind of remind me of The Good Place, the TV show.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Do you know?
It's a fun TV show. I've seen all of it. Yeah.
No, I don't know.
No, it's also about like kind of a satire and comedy of how heaven and hell works, and the characters are also kind of, let's say, different than from the expectations of normal religious system. I think this reminds me of that, but it's probably going to be much more deep in Job. That one is much more of a comedy.
Yeah, it just reminded me, like, when there's actually a rapture that happens and all the born-agains go to heaven, and, heaven, like, Yahweh's, like, just seems like an arsehole, and the angels are, like, bureaucratic snobs, just don't want to help anyone, and they're like, you humans, you're here, we had to install plumbing, and now there goes the neighborhood kind of thing. So
sounds pretty good.
As I said, it's a hard book to recommend because I'm not sure like who would actually enjoy it.
So is it really in going into some of the like philosophical pondering about what's right and morals and like we talked about in the other episode?
No, I think it's just pointing out the hypocrisy of like religious groups. The main character is quite pious, but he's very starts getting into the sex and all that quite easily. So by the time he gets to heaven, he's actually quite sinned a lot, but somehow he becomes a saint. So
sounds like Heinlein was fed up with all the critique and hard logic and rational like justifications of nonsense, and then he was like, okay, I'm just gonna it sounds great. I've never heard of this before you said it, and it sounds like something I would enjoy a lot.
Yeah, I think it's more fun if you go into it like blind, not knowing anything about it. Check it out if you grew up sort of in a religious household and you sort of despise all that, you probably get a kick out of it.
What do you think? Would you read it, Adam and Martin?
Maybe. I mean, I do like Heinlein. This could be fun. I mean, the religious references would probably fly over my head even more so than Paul. But yeah, sounds interesting.
I feel like it's one more book that, from what you are saying, I would want to read because it sounds interesting, but it's Heinlein, so I don't think I will enjoy it because like I've read The Moon is a Harsh Mistress, and that's just like didn't get to me at all. And I think like the writing style was not for me. But I don't know, like from the sheer idea, I think I would enjoy it. I just would need to have it like a short story, not something that has 400 pages. So maybe.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Surprisingly long for...
I mean, it did. I listened to the audiobook. It kind of went along quite fast.
Yeah, thanks for telling us about it. I definitely had no idea about it. And I can't believe we've done it. We've talked about one book and we're on schedule. Like, we're not on a tangent for 3 hours talking about bullshit. So go
stay
us.
focused.
Amazing. Thanks for being professional for once. Somebody on this podcast, Paul.
I'm going to go get a drink now. All right, I'll be back soon.
So second book, Adam was the second most avid reader.
Yeah.
I actually finished the fourth book this morning. I felt like I might as well get it over with. So I had like half an hour left. So my book is He Who Fights with Monsters by Shirtaloon.
Otherwise known as Travis Deverell.
So about the author, not much is known, to be honest,
I was
because
just looking it up. He doesn't exist.
I mean, he's
There's
been
like
writing the book
one
for like
photo of him.
year and a half, and that's it. And before that, he wasn't a literary author, so didn't have time to become very famous, I guess.
So I was trying to look him up and I found one photo and one line of description about him.
Yes.
Yeah, pretty much. I know he likes board games. That's written on his website, and that's about it.
So I found a photo and he looks like a very young, nerdy-looking, bearded guy he's huge in a forest with a hat. And he would like to do D&D as a wizard, I guess. That's what he looks like. And he said, the description was, he was working on an academic paper about, I think, some kind of like masculinity, something issues, like social issues. And then he realized that writing about an interdimensional kung fu wizard would be way more fun. So he gave up the paper and he wrote a book. And it made him, so he put it out for free and it made him loads of money. And he was like, okay, so he's already wrote 8 books. The fuck? It's only just 1 year.
He started writing in March 2021 and he wrote 8 books since.
Oh damn.
I'm not sure how long they are in like pages. They are about 20 hours long.
The first book is 680 pages.
That's short, yeah. Damn.
Yeah, that's pretty long.
We have a challenger for Brando Sando here. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, the book is funded by Patreon right now, and he releases chapters daily. Like, what the? I don't know how he does that. But it works, I guess. He's on 8th book now. I think the series is supposed to run, or planned to run, for about 15 to 20 books, something like that. I read a while ago.
But one more thing about him, he's a fellow Australian, by the way. You're at fault.
Don't look at me.
The main character also kind of like speaks a bit Australian, like he throws the mate around a lot.
Paul doesn't approve for the listeners. You can see his face. I should be making screenshots.
Yeah.
I don't use the word. Yeah.
Anyway, it's a literary RPG, which is a genre I've never heard before. But it turns out it's basically Japanese isekai except Western.
So for people who are untouched by anime, what's isekai?
Isekai, it means another world in Japanese. It's basically the main character usually either dies or is transported in some way to this other usually fantasy world, and generally comes with RPG elements. So character stats, leveling systems, inventories, sometimes even user interface. mix of these things that it uses to like build up the world. And a lot of the not so good books in this genre usually use it so that they don't have to build their own world. It's like a shortcut. Everyone is familiar with the mechanics, so it's much easier to like get into it.
But it's not D&D, it's more like RPG then, or...
Yeah, it's just the RPG elements.
Okay.
It doesn't, the rest is just fantasy. So there's that. That's cool. As far as I understand, it actually developed independently on Isekai.
Sounds very unique. I've never heard such a...
Yeah, it's
a
very
genre.
unusual, and when Adam found it, he's been raving out about it ever since. He's read it so quickly.
Yeah.
I've never heard you talk about the book in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand why I like it so much. I can't get enough of it. There's apparently multiple books in this genre that are funded in very similar way. There are at least 3 on Patreon. I don't get it. What happened? I'm gonna try one of these next time, hopefully. I think it's called The Wandering Inn. Sounds interesting. Anyway, about the book itself. As I said, the main character is called Jason Asano. He's Australian Japanese. And he basically dies and is transported into another world. Then kind of hijink ensue. Without going into spoilers, it's the usual setup where he suddenly has a user interface with statistics and such, and map, or like mini-map. I don't think he has that from the very beginning.
Are priceless.
I'm blown away.
I'm just fixated on both camera.
And
I should really do the stream. Sorry, man.
And he's like naked in the middle of it's like a garden or something, and then cannibals are trying to eat him, and stuff happens. It's kind of fast-paced. Some people don't like the first few chapters because it's really silly, especially with the cannibals. But I thought it was fun.
It sounds like the best thing or the worst thing. I can't decide. Like what?
Yeah,
I'm very curious.
It really depends whether you can stomach the main character. A lot of people can't. The book doesn't really take itself super seriously. The main character is like snarky, kind of full of himself. I think he's pretty funny and likable guy. Overall, he's very principled. And as I found several times mentioned, fiercely atheist.
Fiercely.
I will get into that, but it's really it's funny to me. Anyway, to me it's a good fantasy mix with a little bit of sci-fi. The world is really nice. I think that's the really strong point here is the lore and the magic system is very well integrated into the world. It makes all sense, and he explores it a lot. Gives it pretty well-defined rules, which is kind of common for this genre because you have these like character stats and leveling systems. Unlike, I don't know, fantasy like Harry Potter where you like you say something and magic happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a lot more well-defined, and by the end of the third book, basically the first act ends and kind of shows the scale of the universe he's building, and it's really cool. The end of the third book is fantastic.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't thrilled about the end of the fourth book, to be honest. Like the last third was slow. It's kind of the thing that it has to happen. The information needs to be conveyed to the reader. It's not very interesting, but that's the only low point for me for now.
Okay, I got 2 questions. One of them is with the magic system, because that's like an original way to solve the problem that all of these magic books have, that the magic powers are undefined, and it's like, what the fuck happened? Magic, don't explain. And then going along with that is like the constant escalation of bigger, more powerful. Does that happen here? Like, does it get more insane, or is it kind of under control?
It definitely does. Although, I mean, I'm not that far in, halfway through what has been written. From the very beginning, there are defined power levels. In that regard, there should be a ceiling to it.
Okay.
I don't want to really spoil at what power level we are right now. That's kind of the interesting bit, how fast the levels up and such. But that is definitely a concern, but we haven't hit like a problematic area.
It's like a new way to solve it, so I'm curious. Like, it sounds like it's a good way to...
The main character isn't traditionally overpowered. He's not a Superman, but his skills are very specific.
Mm-hmm.
In certain area, he's very, very strong. In other areas, he's really not strong at all.
Okay. Is it meta, by the way?
Not really.
Does it reference itself? Is like self-aware of the system, like the RPG stuff?
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't break the fourth wall.
That's what I thought the humor was. I thought you said that he pokes fun like at the RPG system itself, so they're like trying to...
No, not the RPG system itself usually. Although he does reference anime tropes from time to time.
Okay. I think we found why you like this so much.
No, but it happens like once a book.
Okay.
Like it comes out of nowhere. You're reading, by all definitions, a Western book, and suddenly the guy is talking about either isekais or tsunderes. I'm like, what the fuck?
Wait, I thought you were
and
like...
he mentions it in one sentence, and that's it. Honestly, he could do without it.
For the listeners, Adam and Martin are like, and I'm and Paul, we are like, what the fuck?
Wait, weren't you saying that the book itself developed like independently of isekai genre and like without the knowledge of isekai genre, or like was the author?
Yeah, that doesn't have any. No, but in the world where it takes place in modern time, basically now. So the main character has knowledge of isekai, not the author. Like the author obviously has knowledge of isekai. He's writing it right now.
Okay.
But the genre developed independently of isekai.
Okay.
So more questions. Oh, sorry, you can finish first if you have more to say.
No, I wanted to talk about the main character.
Okay.
The thing that riles people up in reviews. He's very principled, and I like that about him. He has some ideals that he sticks to, although not always, and there is usually some level of introspection into that. The book isn't really philosophical in any way, but it does delve into the mental state of the main character a lot, and what he's dealing with, and how he's dealing with the reality of dying several times, and magic existing, and stuff like that, and killing people. I mean, he kills people, that's not really a spoiler. And how he deals with that mentally. That's really interesting. And the other thing is that the principles. And one of the principles is that he is fiercely atheistic. And it riles people up. I have a feeling it's just Americans. No offense to the Americans listening, but that's the feeling I get from it. Like, the guy isn't like preaching. He's just stating his opinion. Like, he's literally standing in front of gods of that world. And he's like, I don't know, gods, we're just beings that are more powerful than us, basically.
Yeah, that sounds perfectly fine to me. Like, I don't see why people would be offended.
It's perfectly fine to
Especially
me as well.
People who are into this kind of genre and book, they
incredibly triggered over it.
I mean, as well, like, if a book offends you, why the fuck are you reading it?
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Yeah,
That's with any media.
Let's put it down, and then
Especially
get
entertainment.
on with your life. Yeah,
It's not the law. It's just fun.
yeah.
Oh, to follow up on that, he's also anti-monarchy, anti-theocracy, anti-classism a lot. He really doesn't like that, and for welfare state.
Okay.
So yeah, it's funny how he brings these concepts to essential. It's not really like Middle Ages kind of fantasy world. It's more advanced, but politically it isn't really that much advanced. It's technologically a bit more advanced, including magic, but politically it's not really, and it's funny how he brings these concepts there.
Sounds like it's clever. That was another thing I was concerned about, if it's kind of like dumb, but sounds like he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clever. It's not a deep book.
Of course, but it's not dumb, so that's good.
I kind of feel like it's kind of popcorn of literally popcorn.
Okay.
I like it so much. I couldn't stop listening to the first book or two.
I was remembering Adam raving to me about how he can't, like, he's thinking about like paying more money to like have more audible points because he cannot listen to his favorite book right now.
Yeah.
You were actually like playing me part of the audiobook, and I can see the appeal because
Oh, I read you part of the book, yeah.
Oh, you read? You read?
Yeah.
You read me part of the book, and also you made me
Oh,
listen
yeah,
to part of
maybe
the
I-
book, or not made me. I was actually enjoying it, but
Let me guess what's going through Paul's mind now. He's like, you don't read books to each other. You are men, goddammit. Men don't do that.
Anyway, the narrator of the book is also very good, and he's also Australian. And he does awful French accent.
Oh, brilliant.
But otherwise, he's really good.
Disgrace to Australia.
I think he's part of the reason why I enjoy it so much.
Well, I want to ask about women. Are there women?
Yes.
Are there women?
Women,
not,
women.
Not like RPG women.
Yes. There are a lot of women overall in those books, and they would pass that test that
the
movies
Bechdel test.
go through. I don't. Yeah. They would probably pass that, I think. But they are not. I don't think they are super deep characters, or I think
Okay,
they
that's
don't
fine. I'm
really
just checking.
play a. I mean, they do play a major role, but they're not offensively bad.
Okay.
Either way.
So my last question is: does it feel like watching a let's play
Nah.
or playing a game?
At some points in the first two or three in the first two books, it sometimes felt like watching someone play D&D and not taking
That's what I meant, yeah.
not taking it very seriously. A little bit like that, because a lot of it is from first person of Jason. Later on, it does sometimes show other events from point of view of other characters, but most of the books is from first person of Jason Asano. So it does sometimes feel a bit like that. Not so much in the fourth book, to be honest. Maybe it's kind of tilting away from that. Not sure.
Does the author write other books, other series, or is it just this?
I don't think he had time to write anything else, including his
So, I mean,
thesis.
this, like, yeah, true.
He literally
that's
only
wise a
wrote these
decision,
8
actually.
books.
I think
that's it.
it was a good decision. Like, I think it made him better off in the long run. but the thing is, like, does it? You're saying you're in a half point at this point, and he's churning out these books like on like a factory line. So do you think the quality of the books is still the same? Like, is it getting better? Is it getting worse? Is it like...
It's hard to tell. Like, overall, the fourth book was definitely the weakest. But whether... I think it's too soon to say whether it's like dropping off or not.
Okay.
The fourth book was a pretty major like shift from the first 3 books. Third book, people did complain about the combat being a bit hard to follow. Yeah, I didn't notice like major overall drop throughout all the books. The first 2 books are perfectly fine on equal level. The third book, I could see why someone wouldn't enjoy it, but the end really saves it. The ending is fantastic. And the fourth book, as I said, kind of weak in the second half, but otherwise fine.
For me, I think I would read this book. Like, it's a genre that's for me. I'm just worried that I've already listened to hundreds of hours of roleplay, like basically D&D campaigns on YouTube, and let's say I can't justify reading more of this without feeling bad for wasting so much time on it. But I think I would enjoy it a lot, these books.
Would you read it, Paul?
I'm curious about it, but with books, if it sort of hooks you in at the beginning, I tend to go right through to the end kind of thing. Probably why I like the Heinlein books is that he does hook you in at the beginning and kind of pulls you through the book. So it depends. It's definitely got me curious.
I think it has a good hook. If you don't mind a bit of silliness at the beginning, although I don't think it goes away over time. Some people seem like it goes away, it doesn't really. I think the hook is good.
Okay.
I agree. I would try it and then see if it gets me going. There are a lot of things I'm very interested, and then a lot of things I'm very uninterested. So, but based on how Adam got so excited, like he also loved the what is it called?
The Hail Mary Project.
The
right?
Hail Mary Project. Fuck.
Yeah.
I thought that's what you were talking about. I was like, really?
Yes.
You forgot that already?
Yes.
It's like
I forgot the name. I
months
remember
ago.
everything. I remember the name. So one of the previous episodes, the Hail Mary Project, I got into just thanks to Adam, and I really, really like that. So I should give it a go because Adam doesn't recommend things that much. So when he recommends something, I should at least have a look. Okay, let me derail this podcast.
All right. Adam just
Adam
left.
left.
he's gone. He's like, fuck it, I'm out of
Fuck
here.
that shit, I'm out.
Good choice. Good choice.
I might do the same. I'm gone. You read the anthology of Mr. Robot or something, didn't you?
Nope. I read something, so I'm gonna send you a picture of the guy who wrote it. And I'd like you to
Do
tell
you
me.
really like the pictures of the guys who wrote
Yeah,
books?
I was
Yeah,
like
I
that. I'm gonna send you some pictures of this guy who wrote this book, and I'd like you to tell me what kind of book do you think he wrote, and what kind of animal does he look like?
That's mean.
Oh, come on.
That's not real.
Oh, come on.
That's been done by that Ali,
Ali?
the artificial intelligence.
Oh, that paints
Dali.
faces.
Oh, this.
Yes.
Oh,
Ah,
yeah,
okay,
yeah,
no, this is a real person.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying.
So what do you think, guys? What kind of animal does he look like?
Looks like a chimp.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nobody ever looked more like a monkey than this guy. And his name is Forrest Griffin.
Forrest Griffin.
He even sells T-shirts that has monkeys on them, and he admits himself that he
Okay,
looks like a chimp.
So he embraced it. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, that's what you should do.
So
Yes.
what kind of book did I read? What do you think is this book about?
Planet of the Apes.
Drugs.
Martial arts, maybe
Yes,
something
it's
like
about
that.
martial
Yeah.
arts.
Yeah.
So he wrote also this book. I'll send you one more picture. It's called "Be Ready When the Shit Goes Down: The Survival Guide to the Apocalypse." That's there's a sequel,
What is
but I
this
didn't read
thing?
this one.
Be ready when shit goes down. Okay.
Yep. So I read a book called "God Fight: The 50 Zen Principles of Hand-to-Face Combat."
I'm speechless.
And this is one of my favorite UFC martial artists, Forrest Griffin. And I would like to talk to you about UFC martial artist books, because there are millions. I am a very big fan of UFC. I watch it every week. And I'm a big fan of martial arts, as the listeners might not know. Are you into any kind of martial arts, or you don't care at all about any of this, by the way?
Coffee.
Okay, goodbye.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be brief, don't worry.
Yeah.
okay,
Wait, what's
please.
the UFC actually?
Do any of us look like fucking martial artists? Seriously, come on.
Does our figures not like present ourselves in a way? Yeah. Like,
Of course, I look like a martial artist. Thank you very much. But anytime so I watch these fights, and I can like search name of the fighter, and every time he has a book, and all of these people have books, and I don't understand why. So I'm gonna read you some titles of books of UFC fighters that they themselves write.
Clearly written by them,
And-
they never had any help. at
Yep,
all whatsoever.
So we've got like all these books, and they are usually called like The Way of the Fight, My Fight, Your Fight, My Fighting Life, The Laws of Fight,
How to fight.
Undisputed Truth About Fighting, Quitters Never Win, Heart of the Fight, Fight in the Cage, and blah blah blah. And then it gets more intense, and there are books called like Made in America, the most dominant champion in UFC history. This is gonna hurt, part 1. This is gonna hurt,
What
part
would
2.
your book called? If you wrote a fighting book, Philip, what's the title of this?
I'm building up to that, but another book I liked the title of was Fight Like a Physicist.
all right, I'm intrigued now.
There's Quitters Never Win. There's a guy called Brock Lesnar. He was a really famous fighter in the UFC, but he got only like 5 fights, and then he lost miserably, and he became a wrestler, and he never fought again. And his book is called Death Clutch: My Story of Determination, Domination, and Survival. So my book would be called How to Overcome Anatidaephobia,
What?
which is the fear of a duck watching you. But
Oh, okay.
anyway, this book is by a guy who is actually clever. And to derail this podcast even more, I have a clip because he talks shit all the time. And they always have these serious interviews. Like imagine a comedy skit and somebody, there's like the sports person and they like, have you seen the puck? The puck was right in the net. The goalkeeper couldn't have any chance and it was like magic. And they have this like interview that doesn't mean anything. And he comes in and he says something completely bullshit. So I'm gonna include a clip of one thing he said, just to give you an example.
I will give you a piece of advice. The earlier in your day you have sex or jerk off, the less productive your day. It's true. It's true. It's just science.
I think I've watched... I was watching a guy who was doing a series about... it was a crazy fighter. He had a machine gun or something in his title.
I don't know. Any UFC fighters with machine gun in the name.
No, War Machine. War Machine.
Oh, I don't know that either.
War Machine.
Really? Yeah, no, he was not bad, but he was on that show as well. And
okay.
No surprises, he's in jail.
Okay.
Because he's a real piece of shit. But yeah, it was that same show. The reality TV show.
Okay. So this book is pretty much what you just listened to, like an example. It's a weird mix of a biography and like fight tips and insane mentality and how Forrest Griffin is basically insane. And I really liked it. If you're into fighting, I really recommend it. So it's written by somebody called Erich Krauss, which I've never heard of, but he's also a fighter who fought in Thailand. He's a kickboxer, Thai boxer. And they both write parts of the books, and Erich Krauss basically comments on how insane Forrest Griffin is, and then Forrest Griffin like replies on it, and the book includes quizzes and like stories and tips and bullshit. When you open the book, it says a few little animals were hurt while making this book, but they were not cute, so it's all good. And then it says,
okay.
Do you know how there are like limits for roller coasters? I have a thing for you too. If you can't pass this test, you can't read this book. Let me start with a quiz where you have to score at least 40 points to check if you're man enough. If you can't get 40 points, don't read this. Get out. Then you get like 6 parts, which one of them is about lifestyle and philosophy, another one is like mental toughness, then there's like fighting tips. Not to talk about it too long, one thing that stuck with me.
Please don't. Please don't. I've lost so much respect for you, man. In this like
Wait, so
5 minutes.
does it actually like except the fighting tips and everything? Like, what's the merit of it?
It's fun. It's like making fun of manly men being stupid and him being self-aware of how stupid the things he's done are. And at the same time explaining what goes through his head when he gets into all these fights, because he became the champion, top of the UFC.
Fucking nothing, man. You can answer the question. Okay. There's nothing going through his head.
It's the only chance I could ever get to talk about this book. I'm taking it.
I'm sure we all gave you something highbrow today. And I'm so shocked.
The whole point of this episode was to Philip have a chance to rant about his freaking book.
I think so.
But I think it's a good
And
book.
he dragged 3 other people to do this.
Yes.
You fucker.
God damn it.
But it's a good book. And I think Paul would like it. Because if you like Heinlein and like kind of manly, like pointing out problems in life, I think he kind of does that, but in his own way. Well,
You can draw a straight line
I don't know,
from
I have-
Heinlein to Forrest Griffin.
I'm questioning whether he's qualified to comment on this thing.
Yeah.
well, anyway, I wanted to say that just one part he talks about in this book, and that's how mental like toughness and things like that can be very detrimental if you overthink things. And he talks about how if you plan things and overthink them, very often in his life and situations it was detrimental to the like consequences. Like every time you have a problem or something and you're planning and you're like stressing out about it, the more you stress about it, the more problems it causes. And it's not like a dumb book talking about how you kill people. Trust me, even though it's all looking like that. And that's why I liked it, because I think it's the only good book from all these book titles I just read. because he's actually clever.
How many have you read?
I don't know. I think just this one.
Too many. Oh no, okay.
Well, you don't have anything?
It's one too many.
One too many.
I read like one chapter of...
That's all dunk on Philip.
No, but it actually does sound like something. It sounds like a self-help book that is not advertised as a self-help book.
Yeah, and he says
from what
that he
you're
hates
saying.
self-help books in the book, yeah.
Okay.
It's yeah. Don't overthink things.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's surprisingly funny, and there are some points I liked a lot. And if you like fighting in any sense, it's got some like good tips on like fighting techniques themselves. So that's also like a part of this. And if you're into the UFC by any means, I think this is the only book you should ever read, because all the other books are bullshit. And this book wasn't advertised as like, he is the fighter, he's famous, you're gonna sell it because it's him. It was like, it's a joke book about life and man and fighting. So that's what it is. Well, anyway, let's move on.
I was gonna stay very quiet through this whole thing to make sure this goes smoothly. But I couldn't fucking help myself. I was like, what the fuck is this? What the fuck?
This book is just 200 pages. And yeah.
I'm not sure if I'm ready to take advice on overthinking from a guy who gets his head bashed in.
Which is exactly
regularly.
the point I'm trying to make. It's a surprisingly refreshing point of view of somebody who's insane for getting his face bashed in, but putting it in kind of a clever way that's funny on top, which I didn't expect at all. I didn't think I would read this book. I started it because I like the guy. I like his fights. I don't know who he is. And I couldn't have a reason. I couldn't find a reason to give it up because it was fun. So that's what I wanted to say. Let's move on, because I don't have to ask if
I
you read
suspect
this.
it's very dependent on you liking the guy.
Wait, we are contractually obliged or obligated to actually ask everyone, would you read this?
You already know. It's okay. Let's just move on to Martin.
It'll change your life.
It will change your life, not for the better, not for the worse. It will change it somehow.
Somehow.
Yeah.
So the sequel that I found.
Sequel?
Yeah, that's the book I showed. Get ready when the shit goes down. I'm
There's
reading
a
that
sequel.
next. Survival Guide to the Apocalypse. I'm gonna read that
Okay.
next. So,
So the
you gonna
next
read it next?
episode of this is when you read this.
I was like making.
If he's doing it by himself.
Before this episode, I reread parts of the book and I made a bunch of notes, which we shall not talk about now. And it made me motivated to read the second one, so I'm gonna read it probably. It's just 200 pages and it goes by nothing. It's easy to read. Okay, let's move on seriously. The last book is Martin.
I don't know if I can follow this up.
I'm sure anything.
Let's do this podcast back on the rails.
Okay,
Back on track.
back to the good stuff, I guess. My book is from the one and only Brandon Sanderson, who I don't rave about enough on this podcast, I guess. But I wanted to have some book that's actually from Brandon Sanderson, but as we are planning to do The Way of Kings at one point, which is gonna be a rabbit hole to go down to, I wanted to actually have some book that's not from the Brandon Sanderson, let's say, how would you call it, like the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Well, we have like Brandon Sanderson Cinematic Universe or Literary Universe. This book is actually out of this universe, so you can read it without knowing anything else. And it's the book called Rytmatysta. Don't know if I should say something about the author. It's like
Just
Brandon...
very briefly, I want to mention that he's written like 300 books already or something. He's not very old.
He's written a lot of books. He's published about 50, I think.
Oh, okay.
He's 46 years old, so I think he has a good portfolio to portray, because those are not like 200 pages like novellas. It's full on 500 pages and more books he is writing. And usually those books are in a style that you have a pretty thought out universe behind it, and characters, a lot of characters that are building up and have different arcs throughout the stories. And what he really likes is actually maps and magic systems. He's actually the author who I think it's called the Sanderson's Laws of Magic. And it's actually rules how you should write a proper magic system that actually makes sense.
Didn't know that.
And he also, if you heard the terms like hard versus soft magic systems, like if we would say that what in the he would fights with monsters, I think that would be a hard magic system. It's a magic system that has very defined rules and says a lot about where are the boundaries and what the user of the magic can actually do to achieve his goals. And then you have like soft magic system, which is more like Gandalf, right? It's like he did it because he felt like it.
Okay.
And what Brandon likes to write is the hard section of these magic systems. So usually those magic systems are very thought out and have a very defined set of rules, which if you know these rules, you can usually figure out what the solution to a given problem is in the book, which is pretty nice appeal for the readers, I think.
Yeah, that sounds very good.
So from the author, you can like read many books from him. You can read like Mistborn, you can read Stormlight Archive, you can read
two
Skyward.
most famous series, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of things. But
So we'll talk about this in depth in the next upcoming episodes.
Yeah, we will talk about that. But I wanted to talk about something that's not that famous from him, and it's actually a little bit older now. I think it's 2013, and it's the book called Rytmatysta.
Before you say anything, I want to say I read one line of the plot synopsis.
Oh, you did?
Just like the first line, and it said, they have powers to infuse life into two-dimensional figures. I was like, no.
Oh, no.
Well, that's
then
it, yeah.
Then I
That's
stopped
the end of the
reading.
podcast. That's all I wanted to say about
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, the story is set up in like an alternative version of America, which is actually not that far from our America, but everything is powered by what they call Springworks, which is essentially like those wind-up toys.
Yeah.
So everything in this world is like a wind-up toy. So you have like trains that are wound up and like lights that are wound up in some way, and all the world is built around this kind of idea. And also we have people who fight by, as you said, Philip, like drawing 2D chalk, like 2D things on the ground with chalk and making them move. And that's like the magic system. Mm-hmm. So the people who can use the magic are called the Rytmatysts, and those people are given like special powers from their childhood, and the strength of the magic system is actually proportional to how well you can do those drawings, because there's actually a lot of connections between the magic system and geometry and how arithmetics and geometry work.
That's interesting.
You actually have to know how to draw a perfect circle, and then with these you can actually fight against the common enemy, which are like wild chalklings. And those are...
Can I have a question? Can you use tools to draw a perfect circle?
No.
Or does that not count?
Well, actually, you might, but those tools are like too big, too heavy. I think you need to have like combat-ready equipment. So every Rytmatist is equipped with a chalk of his chosen color, and they are training from their childhood to actually be really good at drawing perfectly what they these geometrical shapes. And there are also like special classes of the chalk drawings, which are chalklings, and those are essentially drawings of animals which are given life and they fight for you. So that's how they fight. They fight through chalklings. And okay, to get to the main character studies at a school where they teach the Rytmatist, but Joel, the main character, is not a Rytmatist himself. Doesn't have the powers, and he's really frustrated by that because he really loves everything about it, and he knows more than most of the Rytmatists. So it's kind of starting as a Harry Potter thing, that he's like the outsider and he's trying to get into it. But it ends at one point it becomes less of a magic Harry Potter story and more of a, hey, now we are Sherlock Holmes and we are trying to solve a mystery.
Okay.
The books basically becomes a detective story with mystery aspects and really good world building around it. To close it off, because I think I would be spoiling too much if I were going further.
Okay.
But the author was trying to build this world very thoroughly and very lively, which I think he did very well. But what he didn't do is actually put the effort into the story itself. So he made the world very vivid and very thought out, but the story itself wasn't connected to the world. So it's going through giving you all sorts of new informations about how the story and how the magic system works, and then nothing happens. And that's I wanted to just portray how this book is, let's say, lower bar of Brandon Sanderson, and that it's not all sunny in the Brandoverse, because I think I'm gonna be ranting about how Brandon Sanderson is the best author of the universe and the millennia and the century
Oh my
in
God.
the next 10 parts of the podcast.
If you thought I talk a lot about He Who Fights with Monsters, you've seen nothing yet.
Yeah, so I'm trying with this book to prepare you that to just tell you that there's not everything is great with this author, but this book is still pretty readable, I think. The only problem is that you get a story that's very thought out, you get a story that has some sort of resolution, but it needs a second book, and that second book is supposed to come.
That was my question. How many thousands of books is this going to?
It's actually supposed to be
Jumpstart.
only two books. But the problem is, the first book was 2013. And the second book still didn't come, even though Brandon is determined to do it.
Because he's got bigger projects.
Yeah, he moved on to the bigger stuff and kind of moved this to the background. And there's a lot of people that want to have this story resolved because it's kind of fun still. But he's just not having enough time because he's writing 4 different epic fantasy books every year, which are kind of more important. So yeah, it's kind of a shame. But if you like just a taste of Brandon without all the bullshit around, it's kind of fun anyway to read this book.
Yeah. So did you feel like it was disappointing at the end, or do you feel like it was a closed enough, satisfying enough ending to have this be done?
Yeah, it was kind of disappointing.
Okay.
Didn't have enough. Yeah, I think it relied on having the second book being.
There's a good setup world building, but not really a satisfying
Yeah, it's
story.
like watching or reading The Two Towers without ever actually reading the Return of the King, right?
Okay.
So I think that would be the good comparison.
Sounds
But-
very original, those magic systems of nowadays. Yeah, I'm very curious. I was super hyped about Brandon Sanderson. That's why we planned our future episodes. Probably the next one's gonna finally be the Way of the Kings. And I'm not gonna say anything because it's gonna be coming up. But yeah, do you have any questions, or what do you think? Would you read this one?
No, I've been
not.
checking it out. Well, it's far more interesting than the crap you were talking about.
Oh my god!
No, it looks quite intriguing.
It's not that of a high bar, but okay.
Sorry.
That's actually what I wanted to do at the end. Which of these 4 books would be the most recommended from this episode? So it's settled. It's Forrest Griffin's Good Fight. See you on the next episode.
Fuck off. No.
No, I was saying this one sounds actually quite intriguing.
It's 350 pages.
It's something I might actually check out. Yeah, but yeah, I was gonna say it looks like everyone's waiting. For the
Yeah,
second book.
I think really it would be better to just wait when the second book comes out and then read it, because God knows when the second book is actually gonna be. There's just too many things on Brandon's mind right now, and he's just not really wanting to, because I think the main reason, or at least what he is saying, is that he doesn't know enough about because the setting is tightly connected to Aztec mythology and like Aztec culture. And he doesn't know enough about Aztec culture, so he actually wants to explore more about this before he delves into the story. And I think he actually wrote the second book at one point and just completely scrapped it because it was not good enough.
Oh, okay.
And just like given up and went on different projects. So that's why it's just taking so long. I think he just wants it to be satisfying ending to the story.
It does sound interesting, but for some reason I feel like I'm invested enough in his main series, the Stormlight Archive, that I have no motivation to read any of his other series. It's such a large universe that it's kind of overwhelming. I mean, this is not connected to it, but I'm close enough. It does sound interesting, though.
Are you a giant fan of Brandon Sanderson, Adam, or you don't care that much?
I really enjoyed the Stormlight Archive books. It's not at all comparable to Hero Fights with Monsters. The pace is much slower. Despite also using the hard magic system, it's not comparable at all. I feel like the Stormlight Archive books don't really delve into the magic system that much, despite it being like hard magic system. It's not presented all the time to the reader.
It doesn't give you that much information. It lets you kind of figure it out on your own if you want to, but it doesn't require you to figure it out that much. I think that's the
I listened to Martin talk about the magic system a few times, and I was like, did we read the same book? I don't remember any of this stuff.
Yeah, because there are like, it doesn't have one magic system. It has actually like 46 magic systems.
Oh my god, what is about this feature of
really?
the podcast?
Okay.
It's gonna be a death. It's gonna be the death of me. Even before we go to June.
Yeah, I'm not gonna try. I'll try not to rant about it too much.
Well, that's why you're there. It's good that you know so much about it. Yeah, so I guess we're about to wrap this one up. So you know which book I'm picking to be the best of this episode? Which one do you recommend the most from this one? Which book did you like the best?
I mean, other than your book, they all sounded interesting.
See?
I would definitely go with Hero Fights with Monsters for this one.
Yeah, me too, actually. That sounded like a surprisingly original thing. Like very unusual. And the guy seems like a person who has a style that you can't compare it with stuff much because that doesn't happen very much.
It is a style. I've never read anything quite like this.
So just for that, I'm very curious.
That's true. Well, personally, I'm all for more Heinlein, so I'm probably at some point gonna listen to that.
Oh, cool.
Which would you pick, Paul? I'm waiting for it. Don't disappoint me.
Probably the Rytmatysta. How do you say?
Rytmatysta.
The Brandon Sanderson.
Oh, really?
That one. Brandon Sanderson. Yeah, that sounds actually most intriguing.
Okay. I think it's like from the arithmetics, like the word, but like Rytmatysta. I don't know, but yeah.
So yeah, I had a lot of fun. I'm not sure about you, but would you like to do this again in the future?
Sure, I have.
When you read,
we should set ground rules first, I think.
Well, you didn't have to read it, so
it's actually fun.
I don't want to hear about it.
Funny. It's so bad you can't. Not even willing to touch it with a 10-foot pole, but you can't even like hear about it. Let me find an even better book next time if we do
Right.
it.
Right. I think we should do this more.
So let us please know at minddeckbooks@gmail.com. I would love to have this once in a while, in between the main episodes with the books. Thanks a lot to you guys for sticking around and listening to me rant about monkeys. And
But Paul just can't.
I think my mind's broken.
Yeah.
That's like...
And you didn't even let me talk about all the notes I wrote. I'm so disappointed. I have like 2 pages here.
Oh, good, there was more.
It's gonna be for the Patreon bonus point. Like,
Why not to subscribe? I have quotes. I have like notes. I have like thought of the day. Okay. All right. So thanks for listening, and see you on the next one.
Bye.
bye.
See ya.
On the next episode, it's finally happening. Brandon Sanderson, and the first book in the Stormlight Archive series, The Way of the Kings. So join us on the next one. Please rate us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And thanks for listening.